Hello. I recently listened to a podcast with Biomech Max and Brad Beer of Pogo Physiotherapy, the physical performance show, which looked at the surface in relation to injury prevention and also as a tool to avoid further irritation and what basically happens with different surfaces on the muscles, the tendons, and the bones. There are multiple factors around the surface and the training response witnessed. Running style, foot strike, ground forces, speed, and footwear all play a huge role in the response. The results of many of the studies are inconclusive, as speed plays a huge role, and this tends to be controlled in a lot of the scientific studies that are taking place. Running on a softer surface changes the demands on the body as you get little or no energy back from the surface. Also, if running on sand, the sand tends to move. It's been quoted that there's about 10 times higher chance of an Achilles tendon injury when running on sand as there is on pavement. So choosing your surface is really important. Pavement is highly responsive and doesn't change shape under the foot, so force in should give a higher energy return back out. For example, if you run a 5-minute kilometre on pavement and run a 5-minute kilometre on sand, the latter will be harder and result in a higher perceived and actual level of exertion. It sounds like a no-brainer, pavement for the win surely, but maybe it's not as easy as that. The firmer the ground, the more bone loading there is, so the bone is under more stress. Now we know that the bone likes stress to a certain point, but on a previous episode of the Physical Performance Show podcast, we found out that the bone cycles switch off after 100 or so uniform cycles. So if you do the same loading over and over again, after 100, the bone switches off. Even further down the rabbit hole, on sand, the surface is soft, but due to the nature of shifting sands, i.e. the position changes under your foot, the surface is uneven. This results in the body having to create its own stability of firmness to push off of, and therefore increase muscle force. The muscles all pull on the bones, and then therefore if there's more muscle pulling on the bone loading becomes higher than the body's actual capability. This is when bone injury may occur, or stress fractures. When we are working harder on the sand, we counteract the harder work by reducing our speed. It is believed that the speed change is due to extra work rather than the surface, and this protects us from injury. Lastly, the surface may not be natural. It may be man-made, i.e. the sole of the shoe. It is stressed that if you're looking at comparing shoes, you have to have a consistent factor in the same strike pattern. It's been noted that rear foot strikers going to a softer shoe experience an increase in stiffness at the ankle versus a stiffness at the knee. So although they reduce the knee stiffness, they increase the stiffness at the ankle, where there might not be the same capabilities, which leads to potentially plantar fascial pain or Achilles tendon. Gareth Sanford summarises perfectly. There's a lack of consensus whether running surfaces reduce injury risk. The soft surfaces increase muscle and tendon work, while hard surfaces increase bone loading. There should be changes in the surfaces to alter the stimuli to the bone or to the softer tissues in your training plan. It's specific to you. What are your injuries, or what is your previous injury history? What is your specific running profile? And what has worked well for you in the past? What are you used to running on? And ultimately, what is your goal race? The terrain versus distance? Sometimes changing the surface or shoes frequently may help you get to the start line at a lesser risk of injury than staying on a uniform surface type or staying in one shoe for all surfaces. How do you address surface type? What is your favourite surface to run on? Did anything here resonate with yourself or your experience on injuries or current injury niggles? Please drop me a line, let me know on james@spearphysiotherapy.co.uk. Thanks for listening, run long and prosper,